Policing in America is structured pretty much the same way across the country. Every state is made up of counties where there's a county sheriff whose main responsibility is the custody of people in the jails. But in some cases, the county sheriff will also do law enforcement in the unincorporated areas of cities. But most cities then will also have their own police department. And they just have jurisdiction within their police department. Unlike other countries where it might be a nationwide law enforcement, we don't have that. All the law enforcement within the United States is primarily at the local level. We do have federal law enforcement like FBI and DEA, but their scope of jurisdiction and most people's contact within the country is very limited to that. Think of the FBI as a national detective agency. They investigate crimes, federal crimes that are violated. Those federal crimes might be they might be terrorism type crimes, espionage. They can be crimes against federal officials. At the national level, there's U.S. Marshals. They will go after fugitives who flee between one state to the other. Because the United States is made up of 50 different states, which have their own jurisdictions. When people cross from one state to the other, there are laws that law enforcement has to follow. And the U.S. Marshals, having jurisdiction all over the nation, can often intervene, arrest that person until they decide what the rules, which state will take jurisdiction of that person. You also have some other entities like the Drug Enforcement Administration that investigates drug trafficking across state borders and trafficking drugs coming into the United States from other countries. Very often what's important for people to remember is that if you get caught up in a federal crime, usually the penalties are much higher than a local crime, a state crime. And very often the prisons that you might be sent to might be on the other side of the country, 3,000 miles away from your family. So then from the federal level, you drop to the state level, and then within the states, every state has an attorney general, which is an appointed or an elected position usually. From under that attorney general, you have the different sheriffs elected to their counties and the police departments that are appointed within each of the cities within their states. So again, there could be any number of law enforcement that people can come in contact with, but generally to identify who those law enforcement are, is they will always have an identification with their picture on it. Something like this, that will give their name and their picture with a badge, and it'll be something very official. Now, people can try to forge that, but someone who is not a true police officer probably would not have both a badge and this. Not every agency carries badges, but most do in the United States. And a uniformed officer will usually have a badge on, and they'll also have a picture ID that can make sure that, yeah, there's a picture of me, yeah, see, that's me, and that says I'm a police officer. There's nothing wrong with asking a police officer in the United States to ask them to prove who they are, because there can be imposters and there are criminals that go out. A thing, especially for immigrants in the United States, very often people coming in, especially depending on the reason why they're here, and in cases where people have come into this country illegally, they are in a position to be victimized more by criminals. And this is one of the considerations that police have to take. The most important thing that we want to encourage people to do, especially at a local level, regardless of your status here in this country, don't be afraid to come to the police and report a crime. The conditions get worse locally for us if crimes are occurring and we don't know about them. We can't investigate them if we don't know about them. So we really encourage people, even that might be here illegally, to report crimes, because it's more important that we know about the crime and investigate the true criminal than we are here to investigate your status in this country, whether legally or illegally.